Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this thematic session on bridging innovation and action, Swiss startup solutions for India's sustainability priorities. Today, we begin by hearing startup pitches from the Swiss Sustainability Cohort India 2026. This will be followed by a panel discussion on water innovation for climate resilience in urban futures. The thematic track today positions innovation not as an end in itself, but as an enabler of systematic transformation grounded in shared values of resilience, inclusivity, environmental stewardship, and long term impact, enabling deeper solution oriented conversations across sections and regions. My name is Prisha Parekh, and I am a research associate at TEDI, and I'll be your MC today. Before we begin, may I request you to kindly note the nearest emergency exits in the hall at Taj Palace. We are in Jehangir Hall, which is at mezzanine floor of the building. This hall has 3 entry and exit doors. There is no mock drill planned for today. All our hotel associates have been trained to handle emergencies. In case of emergency, please remain calm and follow the instructions of hotel and event staff. Thank you. May I now request our esteemed dignitaries to kindly join us on stage. I would like to call Ms. Thara, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General, the Energy and Resource Institute. I would also request Mr. Swain Jaggi, Innovation Associate, Swissnex in India, to please join us on stage. Along with him, I would also like to call Dr. Lucas Ambul, co-founder and CEO, Transcality, Dr. Jörg Gurman, co-founder and CEO, Inverto Earth, Mr. David Schenkel, Head of Product, Rio 20, Mr. Andrea, Chief Technology Officer, Aerospec. Thank you. We're honored by your presence. To formally set the context for today's thematic dialogue, I would like to call Mr. Swain Jaggi to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Jaggi has done his master's in economics from University of Zurich. Previously, he was at UN Geneva, and now for the last 6 months, he is in India with Swissnex. Sir, may I request you to please join and deliver the opening remarks?
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session today, co-organized by Swissnex with our knowledge partner WRI and our co-organizers at Terry's Water Resource Division. It's fantastic to see so many people beat Delhi traffic this morning and be here on time. You may wonder why Swiss startups are here in India today and even what Swissnex is. For that, let's quickly take a step back and think about Switzerland. I've learned over these last couple of months that Switzerland evokes a picture in most Indians' mind. A big part of that is probably most likely due to iconic scenes from DDLJ, where we see the Swiss mountainside, or it's the Swiss chocolate, which is very fair because we do make the best chocolate. Or maybe you think of commodities like gold, which really lay the groundwork of our exports from Switzerland to India. I hope that after today, Switzerland will evoke more. Switzerland will evoke innovation happening in the country. In the end, Switzerland has been named the most innovative country year over year. And what you see here today is just a very small glimpse into what we do in Switzerland and how these solutions reach far beyond just a Swiss context. In all of that, what is Swissnex and how does that fit into the session today? Swissnex is a global network that connects Switzerland and the world in research and innovation. We have offices all over the world in some of the most exciting, most vibrant places where innovation and research are shaping the world of tomorrow. And hence it is, of course, that we also have our presence here in India with our office located in Bengaluru, where we work together with innovators and researchers, but we also do projects all over India. And that's just also why we're here today. At Swissnex, we connect Switzerland and India in research and innovation, and I'm here today as part of the innovation team. We have multiple programs that we run for early founders to late-stage startups like the ones you will see today, and also corporate innovation. We work across all dimensions where Switzerland and India are present. And so for this year, for the first time, we are running a sustainability cohort where we specifically look at sustainable solutions happening from innovation in Switzerland. And we brought together here today 4 incredible founders and product developers and people from startups that are working on solutions that have much more meaning than just Switzerland. And I hope that they will give you just a small insight in what we're doing. Switzerland and India are really at a fantastic point in their friendship, with TEPA being signed, with jobs being created in both countries, and so much happening. So if you're interested to understand what Swissnex does in all of this, please follow us on our social media. I'm very honored today to have all of you here, and especially the 2 speeches that we're about to hear. So I thank you all for being here today, and I'm looking forward to doing this session with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for setting the context. Now we move on to the welcome address. It is my distinct privilege to invite Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General of the Energy and Resource Institute, to please come and deliver the welcome address.
Very good, very good morning to all of you, dignitaries on the dais, guests from Switzerland, Thara, and all of you. Well, it's really, I should say it's an honor for Terry to be hosting this particular session, because I always believe, and I think that is the way the world is moving today, we cannot work in isolation. Partnerships is the world if we want to succeed. And really speaking, we shouldn't be reinventing a broken wheel. Rather, we need to complete that wheel and start running, and whatever modifications are then required, that is what we should move towards. The other important thing which sometimes we neglect is that we should start thinking big, but we neglect our rural areas. And we also have very short-term kind of a vision. We look at what is happening today. Like if I talk about water, and yes, we require, or almost 80% of the fresh water is used for agriculture. And what we really want, the food to be available at an affordable price, and therefore electricity is given free of cost in most states to the farmers, so that they are able to produce food at an affordable price. It's a little short-term vision in terms of the pricing of water, which is it's not priced at all. It is only the extraction cost, again, for which you don't pay. And that, in a way, somewhere also, there is no incentive to reuse water thereafter. But then it is a resource which is finite. And if we overexploit, we all can imagine we can't live without water. And therefore, what the world will be if there are cases where water scarcity is there, what is going to happen to the cities and what's going to happen to agriculture then. So therefore, it's extremely important that we look at various technologies that are available to reuse water, as well as looking into technologies that are available elsewhere. And that's why I would like to put special thanks to Swiss that they had come forward, and they'll be discussing about the technologies that have been developed by their startups. And of course, startup ecosystem, again, in India, it's very strong. And one thing which I'll say is the difference between those industries which are mature versus startups is that in industries which are mature enough, right from day one, they look into when the profits will come and what will be the ratio. So whether they need to invest in that technology or not. But for an innovator or the startup ecosystem is that they have open minds to look at technologies. The risk-taking capacity is far greater than, I'll say, even the big industrial houses, because for them it is from passion that I have to succeed, while for most other industries it is the investment versus returns, which play a very important role. Now, if we look at India, it's a very unique country. While we say that per capita consumption of natural resources, energy is amongst the lowest, but if we look at density per unit land area, usage of water, energy, it is amongst the highest because we are too many. The population density is very high. The other is look at the diversity in everything, socio-economic. There are rich of India, which perhaps are richer than anyone in the world, and there are poor, which unfortunately are far many than the top 5% of Indians. Then those are the ones who basically they struggle to make the two ends meet. And they also have practically very little access to potable water, electricity. We do, fortunately, with the Honorable Prime Minister's scheme, now every village is electrified. But then the question is it 24/7 and can they afford to buy that electricity? So therefore, we really need to find solutions which are scalable, which are affordable. So those two things becomes important. If we look at globally, more than 40% of the population is affected by water stress. Nearly 4 billion people experience extreme water scarcity for at least 1 month each year. And these numbers, they are not just abstract, they are shaping geopolitics, supply chains, and urban futures. India stands at the center of this transformation. India supports nearly 18% of the world's population with only 4% of its freshwater resources. Close to 600 million people experience high to extreme water stress. The Niti Aayog Composite Water Management Index, and I'm talking of 2018, which must have got worse and further, warned of a severe drinking water crisis with over 100 million urban residents exposed to poor quality water. And at the same time, rapid urbanization, climate change, water stress, and rising energy demands are intensifying pressures on infrastructure systems. We look at metropolitan cities like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad. They do experience frequent flooding and drought events in the same year. Groundwater over extraction, lake encroachment, and infrastructure overload that further compounds the risks. Municipal financing constraints slow infrastructure modernization and adoption of innovative technologies, and it's both due to regulatory and institutional barriers. And yet, despite these pressures, India is attempting something extraordinary, advancing water security, climate resilience, urbanization, and energy transition simultaneously and at a continental scale. This moment is not just a crisis, it is at inflection point. The traditional model of infrastructure, that is centralized linear extraction based, is perhaps unstable and under climate stress. Thus, the future lies in decentralization, circularity, digitization, and ecosystem restoration. Already, there are encouraging examples like lake rejuvenation and urban water body restoration, initiatives that were carried out in many states, including Hyderabad, and that has demonstrated that ecological restoration can improve groundwater recharge and reduce flooding and revive urban ecosystems. Integrated stormwater management and spawn city approaches, including bioswales and permeable surfaces, are being advanced in cities like Ahmedabad to reduce urban flood risk and enhance climate resilience. Treated water reuse for industrial application has been successfully scaled in Chennai, where reclaimed water is supplied to industries, reducing dependence on freshwater sources. and public-private partnership models for wastewater reuse, such as the Nagpur initiative, show that circular water system can be financially viable and operationally sustainable. Smart water governance tools, including AI-driven flood forecasting, IoT-based groundwater monitoring, and digital twin technologies are enabling more predictive data-driven decision-making in urban water management. I like to say that innovations, they should not be restricted just to pilots. We really have to move forward, and they should get embedded within the governance framework, financing models, as well as infrastructure planning. I'm looking at the partnership, Switzerland and India. It's a complementary partnership. A collaborative partnership between countries like Switzerland and India can create powerful synergies by combining advanced technological innovations with large-scale implementation capabilities. One thing I would like to say that none of the technologies perhaps is going to work in a plug-and-play model. We need to co-develop them further. We need to fine-tune them according to the needs of the country. It is the socio-economically, we are so different, and that's where the role of co-development is going to play a very important role. We are a highly price-sensitive society, and therefore, how do we bring cost of technological adaptation it takes the center stage. Surely we are looking at high-performance water solutions that are both scientifically robust and field-tested under diverse climatic and urban conditions. It accelerates technology transfer, strengthens research to market pathways, reduces costs through scale and localization, and enhances resilience through shared knowledge, digital integration, and policy alignment. Ultimately, this kind of partnership transforms water innovation from isolated excellence into scalable, climate resilient impact. And once we have done this, I'll say it's not just India. There are many other countries in Africa and elsewhere where these technologies are needed. The Swissnex Sustainability Cohort India 2026 exemplifies this potential. The solution represents span climate resilience, flood risk assessment, ecosystem restoration, sustainable mobility, and digital sustainability platform. The goal is not to showcase technology in isolation. It is to catalyze partnership with policymakers, and I'm very happy Ms. Thara is there, and she's very, very open to new ideas, and I must say, under her leadership and Secretary Mahua, many new initiatives have been undertaken, and with entire emphasis and quite a bit of emphasis on how do we ensure recycling of water. So that realization and openness to look towards new technologies is commendable, and we thank her for her leadership and of the ministry as a whole. So I'm sure the discussions today, they will open new chapters, how to move forward. We are serious about accelerating sustainability, which are essential. We must move from episodic collaboration to continuous innovation platforms connecting startups, researchers, utilities, regulators, and investors. Secondly, infrastructure must evolve with centralized mega systems to decentralized systems or distributed hybrid networks, including sewage treatment plants, decentralized grey water management, restored water bodies, urban water grids, and smart monitoring. In fact, if we take care of treating water where the wastewater is treated, our Ganges rivers will be taken care of, because you're not putting any pollutants into those rivers, and you're minimizing a problem at the source stage itself, so it becomes important. We must prioritize water use efficiency over expansion. using available water more intelligently rather than continuously extracting from new sources. Let's look into circular water economy models, which must be institutionalized, turning wastewater into industrial input, stormwater into recharge, and data into governance intelligence. Reactive flood control must give way to predictive resilience, integrating digital tools with nature-based solutions. And finally, we must embed innovation within governance system and align finance with climate outcomes, rewarding measurable reduction in water stress emissions and ecosystems degradations. India's sustainability journey is not constrained by vision. The ambition is clear, the policy is evolving in the right direction. The innovation capacity exists, so all the ingredients that you require to succeed are there. The true challenge only lies in speed, integration, and execution. Bridging innovation and action requires institutional alignment, financial viability, and co-creation. The future of resilient cities will not be built by isolated actors. It will be built through partnerships that combine precision with pragmatism, research with deployment, and innovation with impact. Thank you so much for your patient listening. And I do look forward to the panel, and I'm sure we all will be far more sensible when we leave this room today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful remarks. We deeply appreciate your guidance and continued leadership. I would also request Vibha ma'am to felicitate the dignitaries and the presenters.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, Swissnex, I suppose.
No, it's actually a toolkit, small tool.
Okay. I thought
They are good at it.
they are. Well, Swiss precision is known all over the world. Any secrets? So are we giving back the Swiss toolkit to you? Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Sevan, the video you showed is totally mouth-watering. The chocolate, the gold, the milk.
I know. Switzerland must have become even richer because of the rising gold prices.
The chocolate.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also request Mr. Swain to facilitate Vibha ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I request everyone to please stand up for the photograph.
Ma'am, आइए इधर आइए. Come.
Thank you all. Let's now move to the keynote address. It is an honor to invite Ms. D. Thara to deliver the keynote address. Ms. Thara is 1995 batch of IAS officer of the Gujarat cadre, serving as Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. She specializes in urban development and digital transformation. She has been a part of initiatives like Amrit 2.0. Thank you, ma'am.
बहुत लंबा नहीं. Good morning, everybody. First and foremost, thank you, Vibha ma'am, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to learn from the startups. But since I will not be staying, I will request Anshuman to record what their pitches are and send it to us. But the most important thing when you talk about technologies and startups is having open government systems. Now, that's the most difficult. You know, Indians have this thing of Indian culture is all about, we are so all the time protecting our domains for nothing. And especially government officials. They think that nothing should be let go on, and it's true of academicians. Sorry, sir. At least government officials has public to answer to. Sometimes these universities can be much worse in terms of protecting turfs, undiscriminating and so on and so forth, because there is no public outlook. So government gets criticized because there is a public interface. So anything what government does comes out. The other sectors don't get so much of criticism because of this. It doesn't mean they are, the society. Now, where is the hope? Having said the negative thing, the hope is here that the present situation and the leadership and the context yields to inviting a lot of people with a lot of technologies and ideas into action. But the question is, how do you curate this? Every person knows some amount of English. Every person has some amount of idea about the jargons and the words and intentions, good intentions. Intentions to ideas to, maturing it into applicable solution is a big journey. That is where startups come in. Many a times I do see, like what we did in Amrut, I just wanted to tell you that there's a mission called Amrut Mission which focuses on water in the cities. And it has an outlay of around $10 billion from the center, which is supported by another $15 billion from the states. Means it's a $30 billion mission approximately. Don't try to add up 10 and 15. But yeah, it's a $30 billion. So under that mission, we have taken a very small initiative of inviting startups through a gateway to come and work with us on water technologies or water related issues. And so far we have onboarded 120 startups and matched them with 82 cities. See, giving money to startups, a small amount of money, is the easiest part of the story. But getting them to work in government systems alongside the city governments is the biggest challenge. So we have done that, and we are so happy. I live in the present moment kind of situation. Anshuman understands that. Because every moment or every hour, my priorities and my challenges are different. So I couldn't get the compilation. That's why I'm just making an excuse. I couldn't get the compilation of those startups. I'll send it across to you since you are there. And just ensure that somebody picks it up. I'll tell Dilon sir to send it across. We have that compilation of startups. And it's wonderful. Like as good as there is a startup which actually created a bypass for the clogged bores in Latur, and that yielded 4-5 months of water more than what the bores would yield. There was a startup which uses Japanese satellite to track the moisture content below the earth to check the leakage of pipes, and this solution has been upscaled in Udaipur to look at the leaking pipes. And it costs around 3,000 rupees per square kilometer or something. There is another startup which is trying to treat the wastewater as the water flows. If somebody is able to fix this problem, see, any treatment is microbial organisms. Now, if you are able to slow down the water as it flows through the, there's one thing to put it in a STP and put all the microbes and give them a happy, cushy environment to treat it. But you can also stress it out, the way Indians are many a times in the cities, and create a situation where the microbes treat the water, running water. There's a huge opportunity in India. Again, I would only say one thing. Startups should not think that if my idea is there, I won't make a network of startups to implement this idea. All the startups of the world and all the energies of the world put together is required to sort a lot of problems. So many a times I do see the startups also go the industry way that, my solution, I won't let it. So I would request that, we should have partnerships. India is, just to put it in perspective, because you are from Switzerland, India is having 5,000 cities. And there are around 500 cities, around 550 cities which are 100,000 or more. And there are around 65 cities which are 1 million plus. So the numbers and the scales are humongous. Therefore, the technology and the money should be proportionate. It cannot be that it can be Swiss level costs. It has to be Indian level costs. So you have to come together to deliver solutions which are very precise, very, very meaningful in Indian context. Understand the Indian context. Because when you go to a developed world, I mean, just for the sake of convenience, I'm using developed and developing. Parking 1,000 cars become a great parking. Whereas in India, 1,000 cars parked is nothing. You have to understand the scales to operate here. So a ward of a city of India might be one full city or two cities of some other place like Europe. And therefore, the systems and the way it moves, and we are very low cost. I mean, that's also there. So my request is, we would like you guys also to partner with Indian startups. We cannot, if you have money to demonstrate, I think if somebody has a philanthropic grant to demonstrate technologies, we are open to link you up with cities. So we will link you up with cities because we cannot fund your startups. Your government or your philanthropy has to fund, but we can give you opportunities in the cities to go and work, pilot cities. Second thing I would request is, tell us what are the different startups. Give us a compilation of what are the different startup solutions which you guys have, in which sector. So we can then circulate among the cities so that they can onboard you. But when you're telling, you should exactly tell what is that you're proposing as a solution and for what problem. And the third thing I would say is, we are still working in, there's a huge gap between what is required and what is being done. In terms of implementation, execution. Policy is all good. It's all good. Delhi is about policy and theory. Cities are about actionizing them in a precise and active manner. Now, that is where a lot of knowledge burst is required. Now, how do we do that is the biggest challenge. In public administration, there's so many challenges. It's easy to speak. It's easy to say we want to do this, but it's difficult to do it. So my expectation would be, if you guys through some forum, Terry or W or anybody, can think of at least, adopting 200 or 300 technical people. It could be from the private sector or public sector or government, city governments, to train them to a certain level. Okay, it could be online trainings, and one of them could be hands-on visits and things like that to make it a little attractive. If people say there's 4 days presence in Switzerland, then many people would come and take that. But you should remember, even Switzerland had a very worst fire incident. Okay, so means what I mean is, it's becoming challenging for all of us. Regulatory regimes are becoming challenging. The way we are handling things are becoming challenging. And we have simultaneously AI and technology coming in. That's the latest on this thing. So my request is, let's look at meaningful relationships and partnerships, and to actually onboard your solution to an Indian problem. It could also be in joint venture with startup partnerships. You as a startup can partner with a startup in India, then I can fund that to implement your solution. So that's also possible. So I think we can give you that list. I will send it across to Anshumanji, and he will circulate it so that you can take it up. So I would really like to thank, I would have loved to sit through this keynote speech was not required. I would have loved to sit through your ideas, but since I'm summoned by my boss, I'll have to be there at 11. So, not summoned, he's a very nice person. I'm just making it up. So at 11, I'll have to be there. So that doesn't leave me here. So therefore, my request is, I would like somebody do a very quality recording of what pictures they are making. So that, and also a documentation, it can be sent it. And so then we have how long are you here, guys here?
Some people leave tonight, I think.
Oh, that won't work.
We'll come back.
So call them all. We'll have a startup enclave where these people could also be invited. Yeah. I think we should organize this. As many people who are really engaged in the same trade meet and talk business, everything can really get formed up. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Let's begin the startup pitch segment. The segment features the Swissnex Sustainability Cohort India 2026. We'll hear from Swiss startups presenting development-ready solutions in climate resilience, urban mobility, ecosystem restoration, flood risk management, and digital sustainability. With WRI India as knowledge partner, the cohort combines innovation with strong policy systems to help move solutions from pilot stage to real-world implementation. It is now my pleasure to introduce the distinguished innovators. First of all, I would like to welcome here on the dais Mr. Lucas Ambule, co-founder and CEO of Transcality. Transcality is a deep tech company that develops web-based digital twins of transportation systems for sustainable mobility and planning.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for hosting this event. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. This slide's perfect. So my name is Lucas. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Transcality, which is an official university spin-out from ETH Zurich, which is the main technical university in Zurich. We're a Swiss startup. We were founded 2022. And right now we're 13 team members. Now that means that we automate very much of what we do because we're not a huge team. And this is also where we bring in value, where we don't have to have, where we can actually also offer basically the budgets that can be fulfilled here. Now out of these 13 team members, 3 are Indians, 1 actually in Bengaluru and the other 2 in Zurich. We've had the chance in the past to work with 20 plus customers in Europe. We're talking about Transport for London, Zurich, Geneva, Barcelona, cities in Germany, Munich, for example, or in Italy. Now, what we actually do is best shown in this little video, which is essentially a replication of everything that moves around in a city. So this is the city of Zurich, and essentially we can do 2 things with this. The first thing we can do is predict what will happen in the very near future. So basically what will happen with traffic in the next 2 hours. And the second thing we can do is we can ask questions like, what if we will close the main bridge that you see here on this animation? So essentially, what if you build a new metro line and you have to close a huge kind of section of your roads? How will congestion then dissipate to? The reasons why we would do this is, I think, is clear to everyone in this room: increasing urbanization, net zero targets, changing infrastructure, changing mobility requirements. And there's basically, I put down 3 example questions, which might be typical that we usually get. Can we remove a lane for cars and add a lane for bicycles? Or here in India, I was at the AI Summit a week ago. Probably the question would be, can we have a VIP, the VIP organization through the city so that not everyone is impacted at the same time? Just as a short side note, so I was stuck in traffic for 30 minutes waiting in front of a closed road. I think that's exactly the type of things that you can test before you implement it and see in real time what would be the best time to do such a thing. Very good, thank you. The technology, how this actually works is, and I'm going to stay at a very high level, I'm happy to discuss this afterwards, but we have 3 steps. The first step being data ingestion. From a data perspective, what we actually use is openly available data for a representation of the network. So all the roads, all the lanes, etc. I understand that in India, lanes are a bit of a more fluid attribute. And then at the same time, we add on top traffic data. The traffic data usually comes from sensors. Here in India, I was in Hyderabad yesterday. I saw that they have multiple thousands of cameras. I think Delhi has the same. All these camera feeds, they can be integrated directly into the system. And we can then run in a second step, the AI and simulation platform, which allows us to really replicate what goes on. And the last thing is the platform, which I'd like to show you in this little video quickly. Essentially, this is, imagine this being the city of Delhi. What you can do is basically close certain roads, you can change the speed limits, or you can change basically the movements that are allowed at certain intersections. You then actually run the simulation in the background. It's all in the cloud, nothing to install, and essentially you see directly what the effects would be of such a closure. You can do this in real time. You basically get a predictive kind of Google Maps of what will happen if you actually go through with this implementation. You can look into different KPIs, and you could also look into emissions. There's a very easy to use tool, as you can see, which allows you to even showcase this to political levels in an understandable way, and you can cross-compare with the base scenarios, so basically the do-nothing scenario. And with that, I'm already at the end of my small presentation. I'm happy to further connect afterwards, and we're happy and open for any discussions for collaborations. Thank you very much.
I would now like to call Dr. Jehangir Gurman, co-founder and CEO, Inverter Earth.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for having me. So I'm co-founder and CEO of Inverter Earth. We build technology for mangrove ecosystems, and you might be wondering why in the world is a Swiss startup working on mangroves, and I'm going to give you two reasons. One is my co-founder is Australian and very much grew up in these ecosystems. And two is because of the importance of mangrove ecosystems. Mangroves have massive potential. So they are ecosystems that can store gigatons of CO2 really long-term, in a long-term horizon. They're super critical habitats for our biodiversity in the water, in the air, and they're also a very powerful coastal infrastructure, protect our shores from erosion, protect communities that live close to these shores. And you might be aware that India has about 5,000 square kilometers of mangroves along all your coasts. And it's really critical that we conserve and also restore these habitats. We lost about 50% of all world's mangroves in the last 50, 70 years. So why is it difficult to restore and conserve these ecosystems? Typically, mangrove projects or people that work in these ecosystems, they struggle with planning, implementing these projects and monitoring. Typically, it's very slow, it's expensive, and there's simply a lack of data throughout the entire process. So what does that mean is their planning is very much trial and error most of the time. Implementing is everything manual, and monitoring these systems, again, is very manual and fragmented. So we are changing this by essentially combining software, robotics, and remote sensing to really bring the speed and scale necessary to better protect and restore these ecosystems. So we're building a software platform that essentially automates the planning as well as the monitoring for specifically at the moment for blue carbon project developers, but we're also looking at expanding it to more like local governments using that system. We have technology that can automatically plant and restore mangroves that are hard to access or where scale is needed using drones that are 20 times faster compared to manual operations. And we can monitor these ecosystems at massive scales at costs that are 60% lower than typical approaches that are done today. So what we're specifically doing is science-based site selection, remote sensing that improves success rates when looking at planting, but also understanding risk zones. Is this an area under threat? What happens if sea level is rising? What happens if hydrology affected, if new channels are digged, and so on. We have a patent pending CTART solution that I have a small thing here, can show later. This is a biodegradable seed dart that allows embedding mangrove seeds into this structure and can be automatically shot from a drone into soft mangrove soil, and it highly improves yields and brings down costs. And we equip local teams on the ground with existing technologies such that they can monitor their ecosystems better, and then we combine it with remote sensing to really reach the scale that is needed to supervise these ecosystems. I think there is a small video if it's working. Yes. So here you see our seed darts solution as we implement it in Indonesia. Essentially, it's a drone with a specific robotic device that then shoots these seed darts into the soil, and the seed darts then prevent the seeds from wave energy and also predators such as crabs, and really gives the seeds this stability needed in the early stages of growth, because most mangrove projects otherwise follow a nursery approach, so they essentially just transplant with huge, massive logistics operations these mangroves. We are working worldwide with more than 9 clients right now. We have operated on more than 10,000 hectares of land, together with some of the biggest mangrove projects in the world. We're currently a team of 8, composed of robotics and GIS ecologists, and we're very much looking forward to deploy this technology as well in India. So we're looking for people working in mangroves and more generally coastal wetlands that need help, assistance on planning deployment, MRV, looking for partnerships, and I think it's really a very critical moment in time to start scaling the conservation and restoration of these ecosystems, and we can help you reduce costs and risk. And thank you very much for having us. Would love to talk more.
I would now like to call Mr. David Schenkel, Head of Product, row 20.
Thank you so much for having us here. A pleasure to talk to you all. We heard about water scarcity. We're dealing with what happens when there's a bit too much water. So floods, I don't have to convince you. I think that flooding is a problem. It really affects almost any place in the world. However, what is a problem that you might not be aware of is that when we then want to warn about floods, usually we get something like this. A huge warning area that tells us exactly nothing about who or what is at risk, right? And that's just not sustainable if we want to become more resilient. What's the problem? Well, the problem is a bottleneck in how we calculate flooding. There's this thing called computational fluid dynamics, which is really, really good at modeling flooding, but it's very complex to set up. It's extremely slow, and as we heard before, it's basically Swiss pricing. It's really expensive to run. In fact, so expensive that it doesn't scale at all. And particularly in the Indian context, it has to scale, otherwise it just doesn't work. What we've developed, and we think we're the first to have managed to do it, is basically teach physics to an AI. So we managed to teach all these complicated fluid dynamics calculations to an AI system that is now much easier to set up. It's literally a simple platform integration and basically produces results in minutes and in a very cost-effective way. So India pricing, as we heard, or just in general, pricing that actually allows to scale globally. What can you do with that? Well, the obvious one is the warning side, the forecasting side. We've just talked about it in the beginning, and I'm going to show you an example on that. But of course, it goes beyond that, right? It goes into the response side, understanding what has happened, but it also goes into the resilience side. So in the risk modeling side, we have nice risk models right now, but they're based on very crude modeling. Well, if we really want to fight the effects of climate change, we need to run thousands of what-ifs. Again, that would cost a lot, but with this solution, we can bring that down and really start to plan for resilient infrastructure. Now, I want to leave you with a quick demonstration of what this actually means in practice. We are live in Australia, and that shows you the scalability. We are basically the first deployment that we did was a continent. Now in Australia, we're working with a weather forecaster that basically gives us the weather forecasts. In this case, it was in March last year where a cyclone hit Australia. Around midnight, we got the forecast. Took us 3 minutes to produce for all of Greater Brisbane a street level impact map that then about 18 hours later got actually confirmed when the rain actually fell on what was flooded. And it's not just an impact map. Let's see if this animation actually works. Yes, it's a fully dynamic system, so it's not just what is affected, but also when is it affected. So you really know how long you have to react, to respond, and to hopefully work towards a more resilient society. That's it. Thank you very much, and I hope if you're interested, come talk to us afterwards. Happy to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to call Dr. Andrea Baccarini, Chief Technological Officer, Aerospec.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And so at Aerospec, we work with air pollution. I think I don't have to convince you about the severity of air pollution or the importance, because you are probably much more aware than I am about this, but like this is a global problem. It's not just a problem of India, and it's the largest single environmental health risk. And particulate matter is the greatest external threat to human health, even more than tobacco smoking, for example. And again, the impact in India is very severe. So this has both huge consequences on the life of people. So the average daily resident loses about 8.2 years of life just because of exposure to PM 2.5, but also has massive cost on the GDP of the country. Now, why? I mean, everybody's aware of this, but then it's very hard to tackle this problem. And this is because particulate matter is a very complex problem. It comes from a variety of different sources, and each of these sources contribute differently to the total PM 2.5 concentration. And what happens most of the time, we just monitor the total concentration, but we don't have the detailed information of what this pollution is made of and where is it coming from. The reason is that the current measurement landscape, so how this is done currently, is either with filter analysis, meaning there are people that collect filters, they bring it to the lab, they analyze it, and this is very slow, it's not really scalable, and then you have a lot of artifacts and issues with all the sampling, transport, analysis, and so on and so forth. So this takes months to years before you get meaningful results. There are some other solutions that are online measurements, but currently this is more kind of research-grade equipment. It's run by universities like IITs here in India. It's very expensive, high maintenance requirement, and typically require highly trained people like PhD or postdoc to operate these instruments. So our solution is a much more simple instrument. It's very industrial grade, it's robust, so that's why we think India is the perfect market, because it can be easily deployed at scale. Training is fast, so normal technician can operate the instrument, and that's everything that is needed for non-technical operation, essentially. And we have different level of data architecture. I won't go into the details now, but of course, if you're interested, you can talk to me later and I can explain more. But we go from the raw physical-based infrared spectrum to the chemical composition, so we can tell exactly what the pollution is coming from, and then more data analysis on how like what are the different sources and where it's coming from in terms of wind direction, pollution roses, diurnal profile, and so on and so forth. We have already deployed this around the world, so of course we are based in Switzerland, so we are doing deployment in Switzerland, collaborating with different cantons, but also in Paris, Greece, and we were also in Japan last summer. And we are essentially now looking, of course, to deploy here in India as well. Okay, so just a very quick snapshot on some of the data. These are from Athens. You see in red, this is the reference PM 2.5 concentration. So this is what you typically get is only the total concentration, but then you can really split it into the different categories and then try to identify different sources. So for example, we did this for Athens. We see that we have different secondary components like ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate. We get dust, we get biomass burning, and then we can work on pollution roses to see where this is coming from. So you can see the different sources are coming from different directions of the cities, and this can tell us what are the main contributors to pollution. So ultimately, we can use this data to produce real actionable information that can be used to drive policy, to improve air quality and essentially save lives. And as mentioned before, these are really scalable and can allow for local capacity building. So again, you don't need to work with universities. I mean, it's great to work with university, but this typically works more at kind of pilot or short-term campaign. It's not really a solution that if you want to apply to the numerous cities that were mentioned before by the Honorable Ministry. And this is really the technology you need if you want to be able to tackle this huge problem that air quality is in India, but again, it's a global problem, so it's not just here, but we think here would be the perfect ground to really showcase this technology and its impact. And this is some development we're currently working on, so mapping with satellite data as well, modeling PM in the entire airshed, which again is a problem when you have a lot of interconnected places like the whole Indo-Gangetic plain, and mapping that again shows you the direction and also composition on a more granular level. And this is it. So this is the Airmon. We are Aerospec, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with you after this session if you are interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for these insightful presentations. We now move from individual solutions to broader system conversation. Our next segment is the panel discussion on water innovation for climate resilient urban futures. This discussion will explore how technology policy and partnership can converge to strengthen urban water systems in face of increasing climate variability. To moderate this important dialogue, it is my pleasure to invite Mr. Anshuman, Director, Water Resources Division, TERI. Sir, may I request you to kindly take the stage? I would also request our distinguished panelists to take their seats. We are honored to have with us Professor A.K. Gosai, Emeritus Professor, Founder and Director, INR Consultants, Mr. Dev Mukherjee, Managing Director, Synergist Energy Private Limited, and Mr. Naveen Mathur, CEO, Methri Private Limited. We warmly welcome all of you and look forward to an engaging and forward-looking discussion. Could you please join us on stage?
Well, thanks, Prisha. And again, welcome to this part of the discussion. As you understand this discussion, we are slightly focusing on water innovations from the perspective of climate resilient urban future. Now, a lot has been mentioned about the challenges, I think, in the morning by both D. Tharaji and Dr. Dhawan. So I don't want to repeat too much into the subject, but I think I do want to emphasize to put the perspective about the subject. Urban cities, we are expecting around 400 million people to be added by 2050 in India, especially in the urban domain. And if you look into the kind of current management of water resources, besides the challenges of the climate change, we know extreme rainfall events, we know flood and droughts, heat stress, etc. The way we are in terms of management of water resources, it's not necessarily the scarcity of water. I believe it's the real efficiency of the management. If you look into the kinds of water use, we are having overexploited groundwater resources. If you look into the kind of water use in the efficiency in the city's supply system, we are anywhere in India around 30 to 40%, having non-revenue water and leakage losses. Delhi, we have around 50%, 58% of non-revenue water. So it's not necessarily the scarcity, it's about the efficient management. And if we are talking about the urban resilience, I think it's even more important to look from the perspective of moving from the linearity to the circularity of the resource management. So wastewater, for example, is not a waste anymore. We look at it as a resource. Water, the minerals, the contents, lot many things can be recovered from it. Stormwater is not a nuisance. It's basically a recharge potential. And likewise, if you look into the perspective of the data that's a new hot asset. So all of this is something that we need to integrate into our resilient planning to make sure that we are into the next decade with much more climate resilient water future. And I think in that context, 2, 3, 4 pillars are very important. One is, of course, the technology. We heard about a lot of technologies here. There are a lot of technologies about how you treat water, how you recycle, reuse water. We are in this hall, joined by a lot many innovators, industries who are working excellent, interventions on wastewater recycle, reuse, and resources recovery, etc. We had done a project along with Ion Exchange on Pavitra Ganga, looking into the possibility of further reducing the energy and the cost of the technology. So there's no, I would say, absence of the technology. I think the real challenge is I would use the word democratization of the technology, so that it reaches at a level where it can make that critical mass impact. And I think that's the real challenge, I think, which we need to overcome from the perspective of the water management. And I think in that context, I would just mention that this entire collaborative, setup of the industries, the innovators, and the practitioners as well as the beneficiaries and the consumers. I think that's where, the collaborations has to come in to create that kind of, climate resilient urban future. I think with that context, keeping it short because we are short of time, I would like to, quickly move to our panel. We have Professor Gosai from IIT Delhi, Mr. Dev Mukherjee from Synergist Energy India Private Limited, and Mr. Naveen Mathur, his CEO, Maitri Aquatic. What I'll do is I'll put few questions in the perspective and basically to give them sort of a background, but really invite their thoughts on the subject. I'll start with Professor Eku Gosai. Professor Gosai is Emeritus Professor, founder and director of INRM Consultants. It's an IIT Delhi incubated company. He has enormous potential, enormous experience and accolades of working in the sector, so I don't want to go into his details of the experience, but I do want to put the question to him that we understand the climate variability and the kinds of disconnect between the basin level hydrology and the urban planning. Now, from the perspective of the challenges that you see, how do you think that the science and the tools and the models that you have been excellently using for planning can be really, institutionalized, and how they can be embedded into the statutory urban planning and infrastructure investment decisions as far as our country is concerned? So, would like to have thought from you, Professor Gosai, on that.
Thank you. Thank you much. Thank you much, and thank you for inviting me in this very important discussion. The question which you have put, I think what the madam from the Mahua was mentioning in the morning, that we have to look at the ground reality of this country. So when we are talking of new technologies, yes, the technologies are there, and we are also capable of using those technologies. Let me take the example of urban flooding. Now, the urban flooding, unless you have proper capture of your infrastructure, what is the drainage system existing in your urban areas, you might be struggling a lot whether you use AI or whether you use anything else. You might not be in a position to really give solutions which are relevant to the city. Even a city like Delhi, which is the capital city of India, we have no proper data, despite having the digitization of Delhi done around 15 years ago. We are not sure that what is the carrying capacity of the drains when the rain comes. And you must be seeing, all of you are, most of you are from Delhi, that a small rain is causing a lot of flooding in different parts of the city. The reason is a combined effect. We are having drains which are full of silt. We don't know how much silt is there because most of them are covered, and most of the storm drains are not supposed to be covered. If they are covered, you might be spending a lot of money in desilting and saying that we are desilting every year, but there's no effective desilting. So the carrying capacity is not known. What is the carrying capacity of those drains? And then on top of that, most of those drains are carrying sewage. So half your capacity of the drain is also occupied with the sewage, which is flowing throughout the year. And that is because of the mismanagement of your sewerage handling, or the sewerage network not functional, the sewage not being reaching the sewer lines, and things which we have found because we were involved in the drainage master plan of Delhi. We found such things which people they are also party to it, but they are not aware that this is what is happening. In localities of Delhi, you won't have any street level drains, stormwater drains. There's no street level stormwater drains existing as of now. So where you think your rooftop water is going, when the rain comes, the rooftop water is going into your sewer lines, which are not designed for that. So most of the time, you are getting flooded because of the sewage flowing out of the sewer lines, because they are surcharged. They are not having the capacity to really get that additional water which is coming from the rooftop. So those kind of things are there. So if you want to now use a AI-based approach, you wouldn't get the results because you have not captured the ground reality. So I think we have to do a lot of work in first trying to put the the basic requirement of whether it's the urban flooding or whether it's the riverine flooding, in the case of riverine flooding also, you are not done the floodplain zoning. So unless you do the floodplain zoning, you are not even aware that which part of the floodplain is allowed for some kind of activities and which part should not be allowed. So most of the time, people are settling on the floodplains, and then suddenly a flood comes, and they find that they are now flooded and they are the injured party, because that information has to come from the governments. So we have not done in our country the floodplain zoning of any of the river systems. So I think those are the first steps if you really want to go to the next level of using these latest technologies. You have to have your base captured properly. Only then you can think in terms of using those technologies. So I'll stop here.
Thank you. Right here.
Thank you, Professor Gazai. I think we all know that what you can measure, that only you can manage. And in that context, all that you said holds enormous value. That's the start point, I would say, to make any difference. Let me now turn towards Mr. Dev Mukherjee. Mr. Mukherjee is Managing Director of Synergist in Energy Private Limited. Mr. Mukherjee, urban water systems are deeply intertwined with energy consumption and a lot of operational inefficiencies, as you know. What, in your opinion, the performance-based solution and digitalization as well as demand-side management can make a difference into, especially from the context of what are the changes needed for the cities to adopt such models? We have worked together on technologies, and you have been working into a lot of technology promotion as well. We'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Can I do this? Thank you very much, Anshuman, and thank you, WSDS Terry, for giving me the opportunity to make some observations. I'll answer your question, Anshuman, but let me try to very quickly summarize, tie the threads of what came out of the remarks by Ms. Thara and also by Professor Gosen and the other speakers, including the startups from Switzerland. Future ready, because I understand it's about innovation. It's about innovation to make it meaningful. Going into the futures of urban water supply, distribution, or management in total needs to address certain fundamental principles. Future-ready innovation has to be fit for purpose and context-sensitive. That's what has come out. Fit for purpose necessarily cannot be detached from the context for which it is meant to work. Simple questions like where, from, for whom, and why are we doing it? If we can answer these three basic questions and then try and see how the innovation, whether it is technology, whether it is the business model, the implementation plan, it will necessarily fall in place. And much that we care about the hype that's been built around AI, as the professor rightly said, if your data is not there, sufficient aggregated, validated data, AI models cannot give you the desired results. Now, let's try to go from the macro to the micro level, because that is how the situation will emerge gradually. Often we get this wrong. Even for that matter, now, before I come to that, very quick observation, that for the urban city water management, there are two aspects: the supply, the service delivery, and water security. Now, these are fundamental principles that need to be addressed and need to be thought of and integrated into your actionable plan. In India, as Vibhaji said in the morning, we have to understand the complexity of India.
The Indian urbanization has happening very, very rapidly. Density of population is increasing. So, how do you look into the future to see how best you can manage it and your solutions, innovation-led solution, could be future ready and could make a meaningful difference on the ground? On the supply side, mind you, you have constraints. You have climate risk. And you have other operational hazards and other operational risks as well. Behavioral change becomes important. So, in short, more than the supply side, if the demand side is looked at very carefully for starters, it makes more sense. Because mind you, from the supply side, the basic constraint is the supply itself. Because the demand can be managed better than the supply because you are not sure how well the supply source will be there. And if we are looking at circularity, etc., it requires a huge behavioral response and a long-term plan, which is not very, as the professor himself said, in a city like Delhi, you have these operational challenges. So the point, what's the point I'm making? The point I'm making is, let's look at, we need to dovetail supply side and demand side. However, let's look at the demand side more closely. Second point I wanted to make very quickly is, how do you actually make that work? Because cost is another issue. We see that water is still not quite priced in India. Secondly, we do have a problem still with proper availability, accessibility, and affordability of water. Now, again, in this context, what is the best solution? Just metering is not good enough, because by metering, you know the consumption. But how do you bring about security in terms of equitable supply? And that too, you have another challenge sitting over and above it, which is you do not have an equitable supply because of low pressure systems and lack of 24/7 supply in most of the cities. So how do you address this scenario? This is a highly complex and very complicated scenario by two things, to my mind. Of course, there would be other pointers, other considerations. However, one is to control the flow of water in such a way that, and that's where IoT comes in such a way that you can ensure equitable supply even in low pressure without 24/7 pressurized systems in place. If you can address this issue, that's a good starting point. Secondly, you need to reduce what we in the trade, in the water trade, call unaccounted for water, UFW, or NRW, non-revenue water. And that can only again be addressed if you can find out leakages, micro-level leakages at the micro-unit level, right up to the distribution network. So even if you have DMAs, district metered areas, even if you try and see metering all in place, it will not yield the result of equitable, proper supply, service delivery, if you cannot control the flow in such a way that the equity is maintained and at the same time you have the service delivery as per the norms. That's where the policy comes in. And this is something that Europe is adopting and has adopted. There are requirements in the urban scenario for every household to have a certain quantum volume of water. So, keeping that in mind, how do you come up with a solution? There are technologies. And what would be of great interest to you, ladies and gentlemen, there are low-cost technologies that will be fit for purpose, which can work at the unit level. I could tell my Swiss friends that it's in terms of hundreds of rupees, not thousands of rupees, which you can put in homes. And you can ensure that both the service delivery, availability, service delivery, and equity is maintained. Interestingly, if you put in, say, water meters, there is another conundrum that can happen. Not that I'm saying everyone would resort to it, but it is possible, and let me tell you, there are instances where we see households, how kind of you, sir, households sucking in more water, which is not the right thing to do. So how do you control that? To ensure a low-cost solution which gives you equitable supply in a non-pressurized systems, and that too also works as a non-return valve. In other words, even if you want to take in more water, you will not be allowed to take in more water. And not only that, even if you do not have a meter, you could still know through your demarcated area how much water is going into the property. So, for starters, if you want to start collecting data, it is very important that you adopt technology which would help you to get the data for better management. As Anshuman rightly pointed out, you cannot manage if you can't measure. And the measurement happens through such devices and technologies and solutions that actually, when it scales up, gives you the desired benefits. So, the other problem that often comes up is on leakage. As I mentioned about non-revenue water. There are advanced sensors now available, and even low-cost sensors, whereby pressure, flow, temperature can all be integrated, and that again could be a source point for building ML algorithms, machine learning algorithms, whereby again at a unit level, at a slightly expanded level, and at a larger level, you are able to bring in AI models subsequently by analyzing data coming out of the ML programs that you write, collecting these integrated data in terms of pressure, flow, and temperature. Now, these are tried and tested technologies that are already working. If the scales are there, if the volumes are there, as I said, it will be price-wise very competitive and compelling, and I think could be a good starting point to manage, certainly on the distribution side of water management for the future. Thank you.
Excellent. Debji is an excellent articulator, and he didn't mention, but we had worked together on developing technologies, yes, which actually is basically now in play, and we can use it to basically control and reduce the losses into the system. Excellent points on demand management, and which is something I believe the current need, and therefore is absolutely urgent. Talking about the technology and the innovation, we have with us Mr. Naveen Mathur, and many of you might have heard, but there's a practical application of air to water. Water can be generated from air. This is something that he and us, we are doing together, and they are the innovators of the technology. I'd like him to talk about the technology, but also throw perspectives on what he feels about the technological and economic consideration which are important for scaling up such kind of technology at a larger level where it can make that impact. So, Mr. Mathur, I would like to hear your thoughts, and you would like to use a presentation there. Thanks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Anshuman. Wonderful to be here amongst all of you. Now, so far, what we spoke about is the demand side. We talked about managing existing sources of water. What I want to talk about is if we can challenge status quo and create water, literally from thin air. Before that, I just want to share some statistics, most of which are probably known to us. Sorry. Yeah. There's a recent report which talks about the world is entering an era of global water bankruptcy. That means we are beyond a water crisis. We are talking about a situation which needs an urgent attention. And in fact, if you look at the entire globe, the entire southern part of the globe is impacted, where you have a rising demand, you have a huge gap between existing sources of water and the ever-growing demand. The gap is expected to be as high as 40% by 2030. We are not talking about a very long time. We are talking another 4 years. And of course, there are many places where we have been experiencing near day zero situations, also causing a health emergency. Just now, some numbers which you all know. 1 in 4 people globally still lack to safe drinking water. We are mining water in countries like India, which are dependent on existing groundwater sources for meeting most of the water requirements. So on one side, you have the challenges associated with reduced rainfall, reduced water security, and the other side, you're talking of overexploitation of existing sources of water. Just to give some numbers, on the insolvency leaderboard, we stand at 61% in terms of water stress, which is projected to increase to 83% in the next few years' time. The northern part of India is running out of water to grow food. The south is running out of water to sustain life. Together, they represent the bankruptcy of India's water accounts. Modernity cannot exist with a functioning gap. Urban day zero risk is there, being experienced in different cities. Just throwing some numbers quickly, we've seen what's been happening. When pressure drops, toxins seep. These are some recent news articles. Recently in Indore, 23 dead, fear of their own taps, because not only are you talking about water not being available, but whatever is available is contaminated. Beyond that, there is the plastic menace. We know 1 million bottles are bought every minute. 91% of them are never recycled. So far, whatever we've been talking, and if you look across the globe, we are always talking about managing existing sources. We talk about recycling, reusing, rejuvenating existing source of water. But we must remember supply is finite. The population expansion is happening. The gap is growing between the demand and supply. So we need a fourth R, which is resource generation. That is, can we create water? And I just want to spend half a minute on this because I'm not sure how well people are aware of, not everyone would probably, that there is so much water in the air around us that less than 1% of it is enough to meet the entire requirements of mankind, flora and fauna. And what the world needs is actually to tap into that in a very responsible fashion. There are technologies, there are AWG technologies. Our company has been doing this for a long time. A lot of projects we've done with Terry also. So what you see is kind of a water factory. This literally generates water from thin air. And at scale, even if the requirement is for millions and millions of liters for every single day. Coming to economics, it is extremely affordable. In the Indian context, where water is grossly subsidized, very often for political reasons, if you compare for potable water purposes, you are talking about less than 2 rupees for a liter of water using this technology. You are talking for technology, if it is paired with any renewable source of energy, the cost of water is a fraction of what I just indicated. And what's most important is it's a very predictable, dependable technology, because what you are doing is you're just mimicking the natural water cycle or the natural rain cycle. So what it means for society, no groundwater dependence, no plumbing, because the systems itself are the source. It's completely decentralized, distributed. There's no carbon or plastic footprint, no microplastics. The water is so pure. You can imagine water which has never touched the ground. It is from the same air which we are breathing, filtered multiple times over. No heavy metals, no toxins in the water, the purest water which is there. Of course, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and I just want to quickly show you some projects which have been done. There are companies globally, including in India, where they have already started adopting these technologies. And this has helped them from making a shift from being net consumers to actually being net producers of water. So that is ESG in action, making companies water positive through this innovative technology. Sustainable hydration for climate resilient urban futures with reduction in carbon footprint associated with movement of water, no plastic footprint, while you're also ensuring you're conserving scarce and precious water resources. Securing homes with independent off-grid solutions where entire buildings can get access to clean and safe water. Creating a completely off-grid water infrastructure for schools, for communities, so that people where there is a challenge associated with water security can get water. This is, as a technology, time-tested, and we have also used this as a technology to create portable water infrastructure for people on the move, in communities, in railway stations, where 24/7, 365 days, you are under public scrutiny. And guess what? The technology has worked with flying colors, generating the purest form of water, which is available at all time, any time, because it is a far more predictable. Today, rainfall is not predictable, but this technology is. Just want to talk about something even right in the middle of the sea. That's a project which was executed for an in an oil rig for ONGC. Classic case of water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Every single day, oil companies are actually moving water from the mainland to their offshore locations because people don't have potable water. Some of the larger rigs have desalination plants, but again, there's a huge environmental impact. And these systems can ensure water security. From sky to bottle, it is also a new water source for the bottled water industry, and we've been using this technology to set up a lot of bottling plants globally with this technology. Already a proven technology, these are just names of some of the customers, some of the largest companies globally which have actually been adopters of this technology. Mr. Anshu was looking at this. So before that, I just wanted to sum up. This was a little bit on the technology. So the idea is essentially to challenge status quo. And if you are talking about technologies, there are technologies which exist. They are proven. They are proven for scale. They are proven in the sense that it is affordable. It is also, incidentally, for this technology, there was recently a Nobel Prize which was given also. That means globally people are realizing that what is being done currently is not enough, and these innovative technologies can definitely complement existing existing efforts to save water. Now, in terms of policy is something where I think there is a lot of support which is required, wherein I think the government needs to take the lead. Today, there are mandates given for renewable energy. You still have multiple sources of energy. The government can take initiatives to say, give a mandate to ensure that at least within the fence, organizations, their public sector units start using it. It can be integrated into urban planning. It can be integrated into the smart city program. And Of course, when it comes to private sector using this, definitely there has to be some kind of incentivization, because on one side you're saying the problem is so big, we don't know what to do. All we are doing is recycling, reusing the same story. My apologies, but conference after conference, one only talks about managing water, but nobody talks about creating water. So I think there are organizations which adopt this. There should be water credits. There should be support given to them in terms of green credits, incentives, etc. And of course, to scale this technology, there is a lot of collaboration which we can do across the globe. And in terms of financing, there are multiple financing options available today. There is ESG financing. This technology can be given on lease basis. In fact, number of our earlier adopters, they were not very iffy about the technology. We said, fine, you pay basis what you're using. We give you water per usage. So just like you pay for your normal water or from your tap, you don't invest in the capex. So various financial options are also there. But what I would say again, and I'm sorry I've taken a long time, but definitely I think it's very important while we are doing in terms of whatever needs to be done in terms of recycle, reuse, rejuvenate existing source of water. But guess what? If the gap is so huge, we need to think out of the box. And that's precisely, I think technologies like this can make a little difference drop by drop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur. Time is always a constraint. Otherwise, we would have loved to hear from all of you even more. What we'll do is, keeping timing in mind, we'll have just one short liner from all of you, and then maybe a couple of questions from the audience. Very quickly, just one line. What do you think in next 5 years must change to bring about the resilience and climate resilience and reducing the water stress in India? I'll start with Professor Gosai. One line.
That's challenge. I think what we need to do is that to restore the hydrological and environmental health of our river basins. That's the most important thing. We are still not paying attention to the mining of our groundwater, which has a lot of implications, including the reversal of the flow from the rivers to the groundwater, as well as reducing the environmental flows which are as such not there. So I think we are not thinking aloud in terms of restoring. That is not going to happen overnight. It's a very, very long process, and that I'll give as the top priority. But I think just one comment, I think what the last presentation, I cannot resist. If we upscale that to a level where, because air is carrying the moisture, now you are saying that you are not disturbing the environment, you are disturbing the environment, is the problem. So if we are not generating water, I will still prefer the reuse to this particular aspect. It can be done for those areas where there is very much the scarcity of water. But if you start doing as a routine, then you are basically doing something similar to the cloud seeding. So I think that has to be looked into in a very great detail.
I'll come to just one liner.
One liner. Manage supply and demand. Supply has its own constraints. Demand is the answer, because it is through demand management that you can ensure, in the context of India, equitable supply and water for all in an affordable manner. Thank you.
Naveenji, I know you would like to respond, but just listen to the one-liner.
So I think what's important is policy into action, because at the end of the day, you can have policies, you can have all the necessary approvals, like Madam Thara had talked about having all the theoretical aspect of it, but ultimately one needs to walk the talk. And I think the government plays a very, very critical role in doing that. I just wanted to take half a second to just respond to you. There has been enough research done on this globally that even if there is large-scale generation of water, there is absolutely no impact on the moisture content in the air, because the air is always in circulation, and it's a very small fraction which is actually taken when you are actually extracting the water from the air.
Right. I know we do not have time, so unfortunately will not be able to take too much questions, but maybe just one or two questions, just two questions. I'll start with him. Just ask the question, and
Mr. Dev, you mentioned about two things important. The controlled flow of water and reduce non-revenue water. So there is a solution if the policy is there. The misuse and illegal you mentioned about the controlled flow of water. So there should be the
100%.
star rating of the water taps or the sanitary fixtures.
Absolutely.
Should be introduced. Water efficiency conservation.
Yes, water use efficiency.
Yes, that need to be introduced.
Sure.
Now you mentioned about this water security. It's very important subject. The rivers, all rivers to be interlinked. When it will happen? When one side we are paying for the overflooding, and other state we are paying for the dry.
Fundamental question. Ask the policymakers.
Yeah. So there should be there is a national water grid. Electricity grid is there. The national water grid is there. So that has to be implemented. Now the desalination also process is.
I think, sir. I think thanks for your question. I think we can discuss this further in our discussion in the tea or something. Just one last question, maybe from Mr. Jagdish. I'm sorry, we'll discuss this together one by one, but we are really short of time.
A very good insight is given by Professor Goswami is that effective river floodplain management is essential to reduce the flooding risk as low as reasonably practical. But for that, risk-sensitive land use planning is required, which is in fact missing across the river basins in India. And even if we have the robust planning, but implementation is very poor. So how to create the enabling ecosystem to converge policy, planning, technology and participation?
I think the main option is to create the information which is shareable, and you have to involve the masses. See, many a times we say that let's do the stakeholder consultation, but we don't have anything on the table. So now the technologies are so ripe that you can digitize, you can create the digital twins of anything, and then come out with the scenarios that if you'll do this, this is the implication. If you'll do that, what will be the implication? And that is where the true integration will be effective, and you can come out with solutions which are acceptable to most of the stakeholders. That is the only way forward. And for that, the transparency is very, very important. And that will come only when you generate information which is shareable. Thank you.
Professor Casey, I think a very quick question or something, please do that.
Very soft.
You can just speak out,
Okay, I'm curious to know from you, you said you can create water from air. So how much humidity you should have in the air and you can get the water from that? And have you evaluated for any city, what is the potential per day?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very good question. We often get asked that. So what we have done, there's been significant advancements in this technology. And today you can also generate water in arid regions, where if you're talking of, if you're talking of Rajasthan or you're talking about the Middle East, so even where the humidity levels are significantly low, because water generation is a function not just of humidity, but also the temperature. So higher the temperatures, even if you have low humidity, you can still generate more water because there is more precipitation.
Right, we'll close it over here. We'll have more interaction during our WSDS. Let's give a round of applause to all the speakers. Thank you for joining us for this debate and discussion. Also to all of you for having joined to us in this particular discussion. I hand it over to Prisha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to all our esteemed panelists. We truly appreciate this discussion and your perspectives. As we draw this session to conclusion, I would request Mr. Swain Jaggi to come and give the closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I won't be taking much of your time. I just wanted to quickly take the time to thank Ms. Parikh for her great job at emceeing today. and to Dr. Ravan for the speeches we heard from her and from Ms. Tara. It was great to hear such inspiring words also aimed at our Swiss people. I think they have been able to take a lot with them, and having seen them on their first day in India and seeing their faces now, I think we've really managed to show them what India is and how much greater it is than they could even imagine. Thank you also to the three of you and Mr. Anshuman for taking the time and sharing your thoughts. And thank you also from our side at Swissnex to Gori Atre from WRI for supporting the startups in their journey to India. And last but not least, thank you very much to Mr. Anshuman and his whole team, Sonia and everyone else who made this event today possible. This really was a big collaboration, and it's very much appreciated from our side at Swissnex. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Swissnex as well for partnering with us to create this session. So thank you so much, Sven, for all your collaboration, support, and creating this session as well along with. Thank you.
And one last word, the Swiss startups will be downstairs, so if you would like to connect with them, please do. I will also be there, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would also request Swain, sir, to please felicitate the panelists. I request all of the presenters and panelists to stand for the photograph.